Hello, 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 and welcome back to IVF in Your Pocket, your waiting room companion. In today's episode, I have the renowned RE, Dr. Diana Kayal, who is going to be joining us today and talking about the retrieval process. And then we get to hear more from her in the following week's episode when she answers basic essential questions about transfer. Dr. Diana Kayal, we're so thrilled to have you here. Can you just share a little bit more about your expertise?
Hello, thank you for having me on your show. So I am Dr. Diana Kayal. I am Lebanese born. I grew up in Tunisia and I did my studies and subspecialty in Belgium, Brussels in particular. And then I traveled throughout the Middle East and the Gulf region, working as an obstetrician gynecologist and a subspecialist in reproductive endocrinology and IVF. I am delighted to be on your show, talking to you here from Dubai, the land of sun.
Oh, wonderful. And I hear it's quite sunny there now. And hot. We're thrilled to have you here. And so let's just get right into it. Can you tell us a little bit more about this comes up a lot, but does IVF use up all your eggs faster, like your whole egg reserve, and bring on early menopause?
This question, does egg retrieval bring on early menopause or use my eggs, is a very frequent question. I hear that question all the time.
Yep.
In reality, it is not true at all. The ovary, prior to the coming period, the menses, will recruit a certain amount of antral follicles from the reserve, a scoop, let's say, from its reserve.
Mm.
In nature, one of those eggs will grow and ovulate, and the others will be discarded by the body. What we do in IVF is that we try to make those eggs that have been pre-selected by the ovary grow. So use them instead of allowing the body to discard them.
Wonderful. So that I'm sure that's very reassuring for people to hear that.
Absolutely. Sometimes when with people that have a big number of antral follicles, so the scoop is very big, we try not to make them all grow because we end up by having a hyperstimulation. So we have to moderate and adapt the treatments we use according to each patient and what we see on the initial ultrasound when we are starting the ovarian stimulation. But in no way and no aspect is the ovarian stimulation going to use up any of the eggs because anyways they were going to be discarded by the body.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a relief. And I love the way you describe it as a scoop.
Yeah, some people have, it just makes it simple. You put images to make people understand the technical words rather than saying antral follicles and just make images to make things easier for our patients to understand.
Yeah, that's great. Another really common question that I think comes up constantly, especially when beginning the IVF journey, is the egg retrieval process painful? I mean, can you tell us a little bit about that process?
Well, the egg retrieval process is a simple procedure. The egg retrieval is done through the vagina under a very light anesthesia or sedation. The preparation takes a bit of time. We put an IV to give IV fluids and the products to make the patient sleep or relax. And through the vagina under a light general anesthesia, as I said, the vaginal probe is put, the ultrasound vaginal probe, with a needle on it. And through the vaginal wall, we are going to collect those eggs. We're going to empty the follicles and give the fluid, the follicular fluid, to the lab to see if there is an egg inside each follicle. Now, the procedure per se takes from the beginning to the end maximum 30 minutes. The patient comes in early in the morning, stays about an hour and a half, and then goes home and resumes her normal activities the following day. We recommend the day of the egg retrieval not to have any work to do and to take it easy because there is some kind of sedation that is involved. So no work should be done. But the following day, patient can go back to her normal routine, usual life and work.
That's great. So all things considered, it is a pretty straightforward process.
Absolutely.
Great. The other question that comes up a lot is a big one. Does the number of eggs collected equal the chance or one's chance at a baby? Can you tell us a little bit more about those stats, statistics?
So the number of the eggs collected is very important. I would like to emphasize that IVF is a game of numbers.
Mm-hmm.
The more eggs I have, the more chances of having embryos. Because let's take it from the beginning. On the ultrasound, we see follicles. Not every follicle will have an egg. Not every egg that we collect will be mature and usable.
Yes.
Not every egg that we inseminate with the sperm is going to fertilize. Not every fertilized egg divides and become an embryo, and definitely not every embryo will reach the blastocyst stage. So statistically speaking, we say about 60% of the embryos, fertilized eggs, will reach the blastocyst stage, which is a day 5 or day 6 embryo. So we lose as we go. We start with a big number and we end up with a smaller number. And then if we are doing genetic testing on those blastocysts, also we're going to lose some of those embryos. So it is true that the more eggs we have, the more embryos we have, and the more potential of embryo transfers we have.
Yeah, so basically, the more the better, that there will be, and I say this on my show a lot, there will be attrition, most likely.
It is important to get as many eggs as we
Yes,
can. And
yes,
the new trend, if you want, is to do one egg collection, maybe two, bank the embryos, ensure that we have a sufficient number
mm,
of embryos secured, and
absolutely.
then start doing the embryo transfers.
Yeah, I wish that was talked about more up front. I'm so glad we're covering this on the show and you're here to say that because I think at least a lot of patients that come through my office here in the US, they weren't told that initially. It was kind
Sure.
of sold as like, oh, you're gonna just have one round and that's it. So it,
Sometimes we need to do more than one round because if you have a low ovarian reserve, the number of eggs retrieved is going to be low. And if we go ahead and transfer after one egg retrieval and we have, let's say, no remaining embryos frozen, and the patient gets pregnant and she is 41, by the time she comes back to willing to have another egg retrieval, she's going to be too old to go through the process again.
yeah,
So banking embryos for future use is of utmost importance if the patient is willing to have more than one child,
okay,
using her own eggs, obviously.
yes. And that question leads into the next question is which is about freezing eggs. Like, is egg freezing an insurance policy? What is the optimal age to freeze eggs? Can you tell us a little bit more about fertility preservation?
Fertility preservation is one of the most important subjects to me.
Yes,
There
yes.
is two facets to the egg freezing. Let's talk about what we call the social egg freezing. And we're busy. Women work as hard as men, if not harder than men these days. And we don't have time or don't take the time to conceive, to get pregnant. The reality is that until now, science has not been able to reverse the biological clock of
Mm,
women.
mm, mm.
So, egg freezing becomes a very important matter for women who want to preserve their fertility, to safeguard the potential of having children using their own eggs. I think this is very important to emphasize or to highlight. So, egg freezing does not give you a guarantee to have a child. Absolutely not. But the younger you are, the better quality of the eggs is. So for a woman that is younger, the number of eggs required would be lower than a woman that is older. Because again, we go into not all the eggs that I have frozen will survive the process of thawing. Not all of them will fertilize. Not all of them will divide. And then we reach the famous blastocyst stage of embryos, and we start doing biopsies on embryos to see if the embryos are euploid or not.
Yes.
So if I am below 35, 60% of my embryos are going to be normal. So
Mm.
if I have frozen 10 eggs, that would be probably sufficient for me to find one or two euploid blastocysts at a later stage in life. But if I'm 42, my euploid rate is very low, so I would need a huge number of eggs to be frozen to be able to find one normal embryo, meaning that I would need again multiple cycles of egg freezing, egg retrieval, and banking the eggs. So in general, guarantee is not, there's no guarantee whatsoever, but it gives you the option of potentially using your eggs in the future.
Yeah, it's essential to be talking about this, I think, really throughout a person's adult life.
And the most important, one of the most important things I hear is, oh, if I'm fine, I have my eggs frozen, I don't have to worry about myself anymore. And women keep their heads down and keep working, and they kind of don't go out anymore. They don't want to meet anybody. Oh, if I don't do it now, I'll have a sperm donor later in life. So everything is delayed, and they forget even to live their lives because I've frozen my eggs. That's it. Fine. Why do I care?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there is this aspect of being over assured or over
Mm-hmm.
reassured by having frozen eggs.
Yeah.
So this is the social egg freezing. The other part of egg freezing is obviously the egg freezing prior to cancer treatment, which we call oncofertility, but that's a totally different subject. Or a subject that should be raised is prior to surgery or treatments that could alter the fertility, such as treatments for immunotherapy, for example, rheumatoid arthritis, or if you have endometriosis and you are going to undergo surgery on your ovaries, your ovarian reserve will be altered by the surgery. So we recommend freezing your eggs also prior to doing the surgery.
Yeah, this is really helpful, really good to know. Um, well, one last quick question before we wrap up. We are so excited to have you back to talk about transfers next week. But can you tell us a little bit more about the timing of retrieval and transfer? Like, I think a lot of people think these need to be done in the same cycle. So can you tell us a little bit more? Do retrieval and transfer need to happen in the same cycle, or how do you see the timing here?
The embryo transfer doesn't necessarily have to happen in the same cycle. Many clinics around the world have written off totally transferring back fresh
Yes.
embryos,
Yes.
and they proceed only with frozen embryo transfers, which gives the body time to recover. And, let's say the biochemistry, the environment in the uterus to get better and more receptive to receive the embryo.
Wonderful. That makes it really clear. Thank you so much. We are thrilled to have you here with your expertise, Dr. Kayal, and we are looking forward to hearing more about transfers in the next episode. That concludes our episode for today. Thank you for listening, and remember, as always, you are not alone.
Thank you for having me.